Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to the disciples, "Beware of practicing your piety before others in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So whenever you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be praised by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, so as to show others that they are fasting. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consumes, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. So, as many of you know, just a few weeks ago I got back from pilgrimage in the Holy Land. One of the highlights of being there was being able to visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's a church in Jerusalem which encompasses the site of Calvary and of the tomb where Jesus was laid to rest. At least there's been a church there since the year 380-something, when St. Helena, the mother of the Emperor Constantine, went to the Holy Land and said, "Tell me where these places are that I've heard about in the sacred writings." And she'd heard the rumour that where Calvary and the tomb were, the Romans had levelled it somewhat and had built a pagan temple upon the site. So she said, "Is that true?" And the local inhabitants, a few generations removed from Christ's death, said, "Yeah, it's that temple over there." The temple was demolished, a church was built there, it was ransacked by invaders, a new church was built, it fell down in an earthquake, a new church was built, and on until the church in its present form came to be. It's incredible to be able to walk from Calvary downstairs to the ground level, and just a few hundred yards down in the church, the tomb, where is still preserved the niche where, according to very ancient tradition, Jesus was laid to rest. To be powerfully there and now entering into the Lenten season is something that these words can't convey in their fullness, their height, their breadth, or their depth. A funny thing happened to me on the way into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I heard the call to Muslim prayer. You can't go far in Jerusalem without being very far from a minaret, from the top of which Muslims are called to prayer 5 times a day. I'd heard it sounded very beautiful, and I thought, well, how beautiful could it sound? It sounded very beautiful indeed. And even more powerful to be standing in the church, surrounded by such sacredness and such history, and hear people of other faiths being called to prayer. I couldn't help but feel jealous that our Muslim sisters and brothers had that discipline of praying 5 times a day, or as one Muslim scholar says, "I know that within a handful of hours I'll be meeting God in prayer. And I'm never in my daily life far from that encounter with God. I say feel jealous because Christians used to have that pattern. We used to have daily prayer. We used to have the liturgy of the hours. Some Christian traditions still have it. Some in Lutheranism still practice it. That point of getting out of bed in the morning and praying right away, and at noontime praying, and at mid-afternoon praying, and at an early evening praying, and at middle evening praying, and at night praying, and then before you go to sleep praying. It marked in the Christian tradition the sacredness of the passing of time. Not in centuries or millennia, but in hours. That the passing of each handful of hours was marked by faithful prayer. The sacredness of time. And then there was a time when the seasons were like that. When there were so many saints' days and holy days and a multiplicity of church seasons that impacted not just the colour of parliaments in church, but the beat, the rhythm of our lives. That the passing of the year was sacred also. I remember as an undergraduate at St Andrews in Scotland, our 4 terms were called after ancient holidays and holy days. The Candlemas term, the Martinmas term. So that there was a time when for Christians the passing hours were marked sacredly, the passing seasons were marked sacredly, and the passing year likewise. I say all that because we've lost that somewhat. And I am not the kind of person, my wife will tell you and others will testify, I'm not the kind of person that thinks everything was perfect in years gone by. They weren't. We're living in the best of times, and your grandparents would tell you that. If you don't believe that, go home and look around you. And look at your possessions, all that you have. Think of all you've given away and thrown away over the years. And then in that moment think, what would my mum and dad think of this? What would my grandparents have made of this house I live in, and this car I drive, and these vacations I go on, and the wonderful luxuries that I surround myself with? They would be in awe. Because the chances are, except for a few people here, our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents had barely 2 pennies to rub together. And it would just be overblown with all that we have. But the downside is that all that we have gets in the way sometimes. So some people have said, well, I know, Pastor, we don't have that sacredness of time anymore, but we do have Lent. Except, Pastor, I think it's a sort of anomaly. I mean, why do we need that now? When all those other seasons and holy days and special times have fallen by the wayside. And my argument is we need it now more than ever. Again, not because I think it was better in the old days, but simply because we have so much stuff now, and are so busy, and lead such complex lives, that I would argue that it is now, this very year, more than even last year, this year is a year we need Lent. We need to mark the sacred passing of time, and we need to enter into a time of preparation. Not so that God will love us more. We're Lutherans. It doesn't work that way. Not so that by being attentive to the discipline of Lent and the rhythm of worship, we somehow earn our way into heaven. We're Lutherans. We don't believe that. We are saved and enter into heaven and in a relationship with God because of our faith in Jesus Christ and nothing else. Because of His graciousness, because of His incarnation, His life, His passion, His death, His resurrection, and His ascension. Nothing more. We need nothing more. We will receive nothing more than that saving love. But in the midst of our busyness and surrounded by all of our stuff, we need this season. We need this season where for just a wee while we look inwards to reflect upon our brokenness, our suffering and our sinfulness, We need this season where for just a wee while in a year, we look at the relationships that we've destroyed or stretched to breaking point. We need that season where we can look at how we are estranged from each other and estranged from God. We need this season to work on our worship and our prayer life. We need this season to tease out of us, and more importantly, to tease out of our pocketbooks, greater generosity towards our neighbour. We need this season to devote ourselves a little more attentively to study and prayer. We need this season to be more attentive and more careful in the loving things we do for each other, not seeking the reward of God who keeps count, but as a reflection of the God that pours abundant, gracious, unmerited love to us that we cannot keep to ourselves, and we become channels of that grace and love to others. Works of love, not works of righteousness. And all these things I've just described, you heard in our opening exhortation, those are the disciplines of Lent. And so again I say unto thee, this year we need that season, this time, more so than ever before. We simply need it. But, I wanted to come over and check my note that there was a but. There's a but. But, God didn't make us to be Lenten people. Okay? So there is a season for this, but remember to come out the other side of Lent. God did not create us to be Lenten people. He created us to be Easter people. He created us to be people of joy and people of celebration and people of life and light. So although we need this season, remember we weren't created for it. Use it as a discipline. But look at it as a way of looking into the future, to Easter and to life. For that is without question what God created us for. Easter people, with an Easter message for an Easter world. Amen.